Well, my friends, welcome to another edition, special edition of More Bad News this week. Responding to a comment that was made, I think last week, saying that uh, they really enjoyed my discussion of racism buried within what was, my weekly show. And I was thinking about doing something different, but I realized that these shows are cathartic for me. So every week I come and I talk about what's been going on in my life, really, or my view, and I get to release a little bit of my own troubled thoughts and anxieties. But uh, I want to share my screen. I'm going to present. This is about the last piece of academic work. Around 2000. I really stopped producing academic work. I directed the Shoah Archive Project. I taught. I did all kinds of other things, but I no longer had the resources to really compose, to create, and most of my career I've spent in the limelight, struggling, facing libel suits and controversies and death threats and all kinds of things. And I somehow was able to thrive with all that, although I paid for it. Uh, but you get old. So 76. I don't have the koyach it takes anymore to deal with it. So last week, just my tree left me just completely distraught. So what I want to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share a bit of what was towards the end of my career in discussing academic racism. So let me share the screen, and I'll bring this up. There it is. And so this is the intelligence report of the Southern Poverty Law Center. This was from winter 19, is it? Let me see. Yeah, winter 1999. And it was an article that I wrote. It was called Race and Reason, Academic Ideas, a Pillar of Racist Thought. And it starts off with a little quote from Richard Lynn, professor in Northern Ireland, very influential professor. What is called for here is not genocide, the killing off of populations of incompetent cultures, but we do need to think realistically in terms of phasing out of such people. If the world is to evolve more better humans, then obviously someone has to make way for them. To think otherwise is mere sentimentality. Not since the days of Jim Crow has academia been so much in the forefront of white supremacist movement in the United States. Positions once thought to be the kiss of death for an academic reputation are today vigorously defended in the name of intellectual honesty. In the first 60 years of this century, such thinking led to sterilization of more than 100,000 Americans, and in Germany it resulted in death camps for the genetically inferior. Today, it is legitimizing the white supremacist movement. The nature versus nurture debate has raged throughout the 20th century, and indeed it remains a contentious issue that will likely never be resolved. What is clear is that academics who see inherent IQ differences between racial groups have lent support, wittingly or unwittingly, to overt white supremacists. In some cases, this support has gone so far as to become an unapologetic academic embrace of professional racists. Consider the case of Glade Whitney, a psychology professor at Florida State University and past president of the Behavior Genetics Association. I was a member of the Behavior Genetics Association, and so I witnessed all this. Whitney boldly goes where few academics have gone before. As the author of an introduction to David Duke's new biography, Whitney describes the former Klansman's 717-page tome as a painstakingly documented, academically excellent work of sociobiological political history that has the potential to change the very course of human history. Good going, David. In much of academia, a pillar of the racist argument has been the accepted view. Polling a large number of mainly academic experts anonymously for a 1988 book, Mark Snyderman and Stanley Rothman found that 53% believe that IQ differences between blacks and whites have a genetic component. Only 17% thought that the differences between the racial groups' scores on intelligence tests were strictly environmental in origin. Another 28% thought that there was insufficient data available to make a judgment. In 1994, Science magazine, the world's most prestigious journal of science, devoted an entire issue to the nature-nurture debate. Quote, how much of our fate is written in our DNA inside ourselves, the magazine asks, and how much freedom do we have to reach our full potential as human beings through our education and experience? If you think about that, every individual has a possibility to reach their own full potential, whatever that is. I mean, yes, we all have different potentials. Increasingly, the answer given to the latter question is not much. Genes, the argument goes, code for intelligence, character, personality, and even political orientation. Furthermore, this is the critical point for overt racists. Races differ significantly in these characteristics. For many, the hereditary position boils down to this. There are racial differences, the argument goes, and they are not just skin deep. Americans of African descent score on average one standard deviation below whites on test of intelligence, meaning that they have on average an IQ of 85. Only 16% of African Americans, the new generation of race scientists argue, have IQs over 100, and less than 3% score above 115. Certainly a few blacks are brilliant, but science proves that most of them are not. Everyone should be judged by their own merits, of course, but affirmative action flies in the face of an inalterable reality. Blacks, on average, just don't have what it takes, the hereditarians maintain. Most of the academics whose work supports such a view either deny that they are racist or remain blind to the implications of their work. But not all. British psychologist Christopher Brand candidly agreed to the idea that he was a scientific racist the day after Brand accepted that label while promoting a book carrying the imprint of a major academic publisher. The publisher abruptly canceled a planned American edition. Other cases have been somewhat murkier. Breeding for brain size. In 1997, the American Psychological Association chose Raymond B. Cattell for its Gold Medal Award for Lifetime Achievement in the Science of Psychology. Cattell, who worked for decades on intelligence testing, once wrote that much of mankind is obsolete, and to continue the past course of evolution from Australopithecus to Cro-Magnon, we need to go beyond ourselves. Cattell maintained that the only real advance in humankind is going to occur through breeding for brain size. Before the award ceremony, critics accused Cattell of being aligned with fascist ideas. This was one of the main works that I've done, and it was I published serendipity. I published an article in Genetica, a very prestigious academic journal, on Raymond B. Cattell. It came out a month before this whole thing came about. And in 1998, the APA decided to appoint a 5-member blue ribbon committee to investigate the affair. Before they could complete their work, Cattell died, and no final report was ever issued. Shortly before his death, at age 92, Cattell issued a letter withdrawing his name from consideration for the award and saying that he abhorred racism and only supported voluntary eugenics. Cattell's daughter, Heather Cattell, a California psychologist, told the reporter that her late father did write some pretty terrible stuff before World War II, but that he had modified his views in later life, something that I disagreed with. And my article showed that even to the very end of his life, he was promoting beyondism, and he wrote 2 books in the 70s and 80s about his ideas. Like Richard Lynn, Cattell hoped that for the phasing out of lesser cultures, he spoke of voluntary self-genocide and recommended in a 1972 book that developed countries allow underdeveloped countries to go to the wall rather than helping these nations when they face famine, genocide, and other natural and man-made disasters. I think I'll pick this up. I'll leave it there and maybe go back to it. As with the What's in the Box series, this is kind of what's in the archives here, or from the archives maybe. And all of these things are meant to be little glimpses of what's in those drawers behind me. And by the way, this is the least of them. I have a whole room full of file cabinets and about 15,000 volumes in this house. So I'm sitting in a library. That'll be it for this special edition of More Bad News. Let me know what you think.